There we go. Now we're recording for real after about like 18 minutes of trial and error with tech and
Technical issues.
Yeah. I'm going to put this on my channel. So just for the context of it, you and I, we haven't really even talked at all yet, other than just online. I don't even think we met during the event. I don't recognize you.
No, I was not in the event. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I found it on Meaningful Conversations.
Oh, okay.
And then through there, I started reading about it, and then I saw your email on the mailing list.
I see.
So that's how.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's interesting. I actually wanted to ask you because I remember you said that you weren't in the breakout rooms. So I'm curious what brings you here? Like, what are you excited about, given that? Because I was writing that for, people who'd been sort of in the event. And so I'm curious, what you're in it for.
I had similar type of conversations where you just discuss things very open-endedly, and there's just so much energy that comes from it and so much insight that I get from it. And I think it's a really great idea to just do that on a greater level, so like more people. Actually, the concept of penetrating up is actually very interesting too, so just keep building upon what's already there. So I'm really interested in those kind of social experiments.
Cool.
That's why I wanted to try, even though I was not in the breakouts initially.
Yeah, cool. Well, the breakout rooms, I don't think there was anything unique about them except for how reliably they got to that special conversation, and yeah, it sounds like you've experienced that kind of stuff already and you want more of it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So, well, where to start? So you said, where do you find these kinds of conversations? I guess that's one question I could ask.
I usually just strike up conversations with people. So whenever I go into a new place, maybe at first I'll start observing what the other people are doing, and then usually I just go and start talking to people, give a little bit of context about myself, and then try to understand what can I bring to the table and what can they bring back. I think that's my personal way of doing things. And I don't know, it just sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but usually I get at least some further notions of how to approach people.
Yeah, I've been doing a similar thing, because it sounds like you're saying that you try to do it in the wild, so to speak. Not so much sitting with people who are ready to do the same thing, but you sort of sit down and try to do it in your real life. I've started to pick up what works and what doesn't in those situations, or I guess not even that. I just notice I'm getting better at it. I notice I'm getting better at sitting down with strangers and trying to find that kind of special conversation. Like one thing, for example, is just speaking about how I feel. Somebody mentioned to me that when you do that, you kind of invite other people to be honest too, because you can't be wrong about your feeling. And I say, oh, that's, and I say how I feel, and that just kind of opens up a space for other people to do the same, and that seems to lead to it. Have you found that, or what other, I don't know, what have you learned? Well, first, do you find yourself getting better?
Yeah, definitely. Like at first I was so nervous about it and so awkward, and now it's easier. I wouldn't say it's not awkward. Sometimes it really is, but it's actually easier to actually just start and then read. Actually, what I do is I read the cues too. So if someone really doesn't seem interested, he seems really off about it, then I just ease out. But if someone seems interested to keep talking, then I just go with it. And I think one really important thing is not just to keep talking, but actually listen to the other person.
Yeah.
So giving them a chance to actually interact is also something that I learned works better than just blabbering on.
Yeah, for sure. I would say it's almost essential. Someone just recently, I think in the Meaningful Conversations Facebook group, responded to my link there, and they said they distilled it down to listen to understand and speak to share. I think that's a really good, that seems to be at the core of all of this kind of conversation. I think that you could maybe like level up and get better at it, and there could be more techniques to talk about it, but that seems to be like the fundamental thing. And it's hard too. It's something you have to learn. I don't know if it's against human nature or if it's just something that we're not brought up in today's culture to do, but for some reason it doesn't come naturally to listen and focus on listening. It somehow seems easier to just like prepare your next sentence in your head while the person is talking, and then of course you're not really listening when you're doing that. But yeah, but once you can get going with that, it seems to lead at least into circling, and then maybe into something more, something like dialogos. Do you have any experience with circling, or do you know much about that? I don't really. I mean, I've kind of been.
I just read about like recently, very recently, I think,
Yeah.
from the dialogos, from the Rebel Wisdom wiki, maybe, but like, yeah, not anything too in depth.
Right.
So what would you say it is?
Circling or dialogos?
Yeah.
Or both?
Circling.
See, I really need to actually talk to somebody who is more experienced in it. I actually think a lot of people in the group, there's probably quite a few in there who are. My understanding is that the relationship between circling and dialogos is that circling that's like the authentic communication. That's the trusting communication where you're not trying to impress somebody. You try to not let your ego drive. You listen deeply, and then that forms a very open, real kind of dialogue. And for me, when it changes into dialogos is when you start using that energy and working on something other than the people in the group. So circling, I might tell you about, I've had a really stressful week and go into why, and then we would both gain insights because it's a really real thing. But I think dialogos would be if we're using that same energy to talk about, well, like the coronavirus maybe, or what's going to happen afterward, or, how do we do the breakout room magic stuff again. That's when I think it turns into dialogos. And then somebody else mentioned that that it's when everybody puts the conversation above themselves. That also seems to be, I don't know, but I don't know if that could be with both circling and dialogos, maybe not dialogos specifically. And the other thing too is this term, like there's no experts, John Vervaeke coined the term, but that's only recently. And it's like, I'm actually impressed by him to have the balls to just coin a term like that, but he did, but even he's just still exploring it. So it always makes me nervous even to use the term, but it keeps popping up more and more. It seems like it is, I don't know, crucial somehow. So, yeah.
Well, that was interesting definition, because I got the same sense. Even from watching a little bit of the video, I got that kind of feel from it. And I think a lot of what you say makes sense, especially the part about sharing. So speaking to share, I think one thing that might bring you closer to that is the fact that even in education, even at work, you kind of have to get forward. You kind of have that push to drive yourself forward as opposed to the others. So maybe that could be the thing that's making like that. Like everybody has that kind of not instinct, but kind of education that you need to do. Then you need to work for yourself first, and then the others come afterwards.
Right. You're saying, if I understand, that like the story we're all told is that you have to look out for yourself and move forward. And that's such a dominant mode of thought that, when you're in a conversation, it doesn't seem obvious maybe to like listen and put yourself aside and focus on what's happening. Yeah.
So should we talk about the question?
What? The question. Okay.
The question that
I've asked so many questions, but they're all kind of related. I guess for me, the big question is like, what's next? and what do we want? But it sounds like, at least with you, what I said resonated, about penetrating up. That's good. That's actually exciting that you like that idea, because I really like it, but it was just my ideas, and you never know, how much your ideas land. Yeah, well, so let me ask you this then. When I had that idea and I explained it, I think I mentioned briefly in that video that I'm worried it's too systematized, or like that I'm trying to be too much of a scientist about it, on one hand. And on the other hand, I feel like, well, I somehow feel it's like I have that thought. And then another thought I have is like, no, that's not really, I shouldn't worry about that so much. And then aside from all that, I'm kind of thinking, well, that's just one idea to try out. I mean, what do you think about the idea of having sort of groups that filter up into smaller groups, almost in this weird tournament? I don't want to say tournament, that's such a weird way to put it, but how does that idea land for you? Do you think it's feasible?
Yeah, because the way that you thought about it, and you did that distinction with the other breakout rooms that happen in Rebel Wisdom. The way that you thought about it was that the group itself elects a leader, and that leader takes things forward. So then we have like one person that the group think is best to actually represent themselves, and you have the best of the best, and then the best of the best. So you actually get like, I would say, the cream at the top. So it's actually, for me, that's actually a very strong thing. So you're actually choosing the best and keeping that going forward.
Right.
As opposed to the breakout room in Rebel Wisdom, where you said that it was more predefined. So you didn't exactly choose someone. It would just be someone that was decided beforehand.
Yeah. Or called from the crowd without, there just wasn't the sense that the insights went up much. I mean, a little bit did, but it just didn't, it didn't penetrate up. Yeah, and I guess the idea I like is just building up something at the end or at the top that's built from the bottom stuff, and not just sort of written beforehand and predefined. And I think also you could do a lot just by carefully choosing how you say the breakout rooms should elect their representative or leader, or because if you say, for example, like, choose the person who's best at synthesizing the viewpoints, that would be great, because then they're really bringing everything up, as opposed to the person who has the most exciting idea, or even maybe the person who's listening the best, because you really want someone to synthesize. And another thing about that is that, no, go ahead.
I would say that you actually have to account for different group dynamics. Like, maybe you and I would think that someone who synthesizes better is going to be a better leader at the next level. But maybe that group actually wants somebody who has the best ideas, because they think that person would be best put to add more value in the next level. So in that way, I wouldn't say to actually, like, I would say to give options. At the very least, like, give options, say those are the criteria you can choose to decide for a leader. And then maybe put one as the ideal if there's not a consensus about which method to use. But then don't force it onto the group itself. So keep it still free-flowing.
No,
sense.
That's a good idea. I think you're right. And I mean, maybe just the right solution is you could have suggestions. I mean, you could say, if you don't really know, if you feel a bit confused about how to choose, you could choose someone who's good at synthesizing or listening or whatever. But in the end of it, you don't want to try to over-engineer it. Just say, look, whoever you think should be in the next level up, that's who goes. And I also think that as long as there's enough people in that first group to have that authentic, open, relaxed kind of dialogue, then you don't even need to specify, like, you don't need to have a vote. You just discuss and sort of decide, well, okay. Do you have any thoughts there? Otherwise, I have a technical thing that's been bothering me.
I think we are are we on the right path, like figuring things out as we go? So what's the thing that's bothering you?
Well, just that I don't know. So I suspect with Zoom, you can't do 2 levels of breakouts. I don't think you can have breakout rooms and then have those have breakout rooms. And so
you'd want someone to administer it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
think
you'd want someone for, like, when the first breakout room is over, then that someone creates or it has a Zoom meeting waiting for the next duration, and he would just send that Zoom ID to each group, and then one person from each group actually goes on to the next level.
Right.
So
Right.
one person who administers the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, with this crowd, you might be able to let everyone in the same, well, okay. First of all, you can have Zoom groups or Zoom conversations where everyone's muted by default. Like that's the main track had that. So that could be your top level conversation, I guess. But I do think that if you're going to have an event where there's any more than 20 or 30 people, you're going to start to want somebody whose job it is. Because at the Rebel Wisdom Festival, they had that too, where there was somebody who was always, it's like they always had like a headphone and they're like doing the technical stuff in the background. And they can sort of handle muting and unmuting people. Yeah. What do you think about recording most of them? So even most of the breakout rooms and every level up we could have them recorded or streamed. Do you think that people would be into that? Do you think it'd be useful?
I don't know for other people. The way that I thought about it is like, what's going to be the use of those recordings? Are people actually going to look at them or use them in some way, or is it just going to be like recording and then nobody?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could always take the recordings and sort of throw them on YouTube. I guess the reason that I thought that was because if you're one level up from the bottom level, you could say, oh yeah, we talked about that in our group. And then somebody would, if they wanted to, they could go and look at how that conversation went. I don't know how necessary it is.
I would rather have, like, during the group itself, somebody notes things down or organizes it in a way that the next level can actually reference it. A more structured way and an easier way than just like 40 minutes or 1 hour of videos having to like try to figure out when it was in there. That would be my personal preference.
Say all that again, sorry.
So having a more structured way of recording, not recording the video and audio, but actually having somebody note things down.
Right.
Or, I mean, the way I would do it is use a PowerPoint, but I'm a little bit on the organizing, a little bit not on the chaotic kind of thing. Right. So that would be my personal preference, but like having a more organized way of recording.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if, of course, I don't know how you do this technically with breakout rooms, but it almost seems like you would want to have every group have an organizer, maybe even sort of determined beforehand, because there are probably people who would like to do that, who would enjoy being more in the background and just noting things. So if you could somehow guarantee that every group had that, that would be pretty cool.
I don't think you'd necessarily need to like force it to.
Okay.
So asking in the group, does anybody want to note things down, or are we good just talking and recording, or even just talking and then at the end we take 5 or 10 minutes to synthesize everything and just jot the important things down together.
Okay. Yeah, you know, you're right. No need to over specify it again. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So are you going to be there on the Saturday call?
Yes.
Cool.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. I mean, I suspect it's just going to be one group. I'm hoping to have a call with I forgot, Lorraine soon, so we can talk about it. But yeah, I'm guessing it'll just be a bunch of people and we'll just do one level of breakouts. And then what I'm going to suggest is that we just all go back into the main room and just kind of see how that works. Like, even if we have 70 people or whatever, and even if anyone can unmute at any time, just, if nothing else, we'll see how that fails, you know, and then we'll have more information for what we're trying to do the next time. but I also, I mean, I don't think it's going to be 800 people like was at the festival. So anyway, yeah, that'll be cool. I wonder, I think I also need to, or in the Discord, maybe we need to start talking about what we're going to ask in that call. Like, what are the prompts going to be? Which I kind of think it's maybe the same stuff we're talking about now, although maybe more. I guess I'd want to know what we want. That would be my main question for that group. What is it that we're trying to get from this? What would you ask that group if you were in charge?
That's a pretty big question. Actually, the thing is, you already have some things to go off on. You have the Excel sheet, right? The Google sheet. The Google sheet.
With the
where people wrote about like, yeah, what they introduce themselves. They say what they are looking for and what they can provide. So actually have some like idea of what people are interested in. I think most of them are interested in some kind of to and fro, giving and taking kind of interaction. I think most of them are looking for something specific out of these kind of conversations. So maybe asking them like, what do you want the session to be like? So would it be, I mean, just throw it out there, like see what they want from it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think we need to really, I mean, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say because I just got into it because I was excited about it. I thought it would be an interesting thing to try, but I don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I suspect that's pretty common, honestly. Maybe I found it easy to talk about what I want because I've been wanting it for so long and following Rebel Wisdom. But yeah, maybe maybe a lot of us just felt the magic and we want that to continue, even though we don't know actually what that means. But that's fine. That's a perfect like energy or place to start asking questions in dialogos, because if you really don't know and there's no framework, that's exactly where you want to start sitting down with people and talking about how you feel and you know what excites you and things like that. So yeah, I suspect we won't need to be so specific with the questions, because even in the breakout rooms in the festival, the prompts started the conversation, but I feel like there was so much more driving the conversation. The prompts weren't really, they got us going in a way where we didn't have to get over this like awkward hump of like, what are we talking about? But then it seemed like half the time, by the time the breakout room ended, we weren't even really talking about the prompt anymore. Or like we kept having to be like, oh yeah, but what's the real question again? So yeah, maybe we don't need much fuel in terms of like prompting.
Yeah. I mean, you could try to have like an icebreaker 5 minutes, I guess. Like where, like the kind of question of where are you in life right now, and what are you looking for? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Simple things, but still like having a way to go towards the end goal.
Right. Well, I think the first question in the first breakout session was, what brought you here to the Rebel Wisdom thing? That seemed pretty rich. So maybe you could do something really similar with these. What brought you to Rebel Wisdom, and then why are you here still, you know? Which is back to the same question of like, what do you want? What do we want from this? What do we hope for? Cool. All right. Well, I feel pretty satisfied. Do you have any other questions or thoughts that you want to get into?
Not really, but I'm really interested in knowing what other people are thinking too.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'm really glad now this is going to go on my channel, and it'll be the first non-monologue. That's going to be great. So hopefully your brave stepping forward here will push others to do the same. Cool.
All right then. Good luck with that.
Okay, thanks, Humairaa. Is it Humairaa? Is that how you pronounce your name?
Humairaa.
Humairaa.
Humairaa. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
it's a little bit hard, but it's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, lovely talking to you, and thanks. Yeah,
Mhm.
thanks.
No problem. Bye. Have a good night.
Okay. Yes. It's a good guess. It's night. Okay. Okay. You have a good
Right.
night,
Bye.
day, something. Okay. Bye.
Mm.